Welcome to the Wasting Time podcast. I'm here with Chris. Hello, Chris.
What's up, Nick?
We are 3-4 days post your stag do.
Yes, we are.
All recovered?
Just about now. Yeah, just about. What about yourself?
I'm fine, yeah. But I didn't put half as much away as you did.
Yeah, that's probably fair to say.
Two very late nights for you.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. And also, at my age, it's that kind of thing takes its toll a little bit more. So I'm not used to doing 2 nights in a row like that. So I really took some time to recover from it. But I had the time of my life. So it was worth it.
Been a while since you've been partying till 5 a.m. in a university dormitory.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, looking forward to the wedding now. What we got? 4 weeks?
4 weeks.
Ish?
Yep, 4 weeks, yeah. Hopefully
4 weeks,
all going
4
ahead
weeks
as planned.
on Saturday.
That's right, yeah.
Well, that's very exciting.
Yeah.
It's all very normal, like all these normal things going on. Meeting. How many were on your stag do? 20 odd guys?
Yeah, about 23, something like that.
It's been a long time since I've met up with 20 guys in one place.
Yeah, no, it's surreal to do things like that again. It's weird. I feel like every now and then we mention my wedding on this podcast, and we've been doing it for so long now because it's just, I feel it's like fucking part of my identity at this point, you know, because it's just like, oh, how's the wedding planning going? So
rescheduling
it'll be nice for it to finally happen. Yeah, but in terms of sort of doing normal things again, you went to a gig last night, right?
I did, and that was very, very surreal experience. It was great. Yeah. I went to see a band called Clean Cut Kid, who are a band from Liverpool. Seen them a few times actually. It's one of Lucy's, my wife's best friend's sister's bands. So
lovely.
But you know, they've done quite well for themselves. They actually ended up on like getting loads of songs on Made in Chelsea. Actually,
oh, did they? Okay, that's exposure at least. Yeah.
But yeah, you know, they're a really good live band. They're like really harmonic. Like the keyboard player and the guitar player and singer. They're married and they're kind of a vocal duo as well. So they're you know, really good to listen to. And yeah, it was nice. And like I say, it was a bit surreal, a bit like emotional at times, like checking yourself, just kind of where you were and like where we come from and what the last year's been, just kind of being there and being present. And yeah, it was nice.
Was the venue like deliberately half empty or something like that?
It was like you had like tables, so it was like table service.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was all seated.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I quite like the idea of like table service at a gig. Like I'm all here for that.
As you said that, I was just thinking, oh, that sounds really nice, actually.
That's it. Basically, there was like a light on your table, and when you wanted a drink, you just pressed your light, and someone would come over.
I mean, that kind of sounds beautiful, doesn't it?
I mean, bars at gigs are probably the worst kind of bars and festivals.
Of course.
I remember you liked the Cure Slam Dunk last year, didn't you?
Yeah, well, it pretty much ruined. It ruined a big part of the festival. It was so poorly done. So yeah,
I'm not sure you're going to get table service at Slam Dunk this year.
No, you probably struggle.
But no, it was amazing to be back, and definitely keen to get to some more now.
Yeah.
I guess there's quite a lot kind of starting to filter through now in terms of tours. I saw Old Time Low and the Main are doing some dates together in the UK in September.
Yeah, and they've got who is it? Meet Me at the Altar, who are like a kind of very much in band right now. Lots of people are talking about them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hype about them. Yeah, so that's quite a big tour. But yeah, late September or something, I think, in the UK.
Yeah, I think there's loads of stuff you're seeing popping up in the States as well. Like I guess that's where a lot of them are starting. So Bad Religion are doing a massive tour with Alkaline Trio.
Yeah.
Is anything on your radar to go to, or just knuckling down wedding and saving money and things like that?
Yeah, just doing that and trying to help Lovebreakers book some stuff. Like that. I mean, that's the only kind of thing that I've been help them out rather than looking at things I might want to go to myself. But I think once my wedding's out of the way, I'll really, sort of look more seriously at gigs I'd like to
So,
go to.
is there a Love Breaker show on the horizon that you're likely to get to?
Yeah, a couple towards the end of this year. I'll not say them just yet because I don't think we're allowed to announce them. But
Can you say where they are, like demographically or geographically?
yeah, I mean, we're looking at putting like a hometown sort of belated album release show on, so that'll be in Birmingham. I can say that at least. I think.
North
but yeah,
and south.
hopefully we could. You can get to one too, and we can go to the same one. That would be cool.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll be there.
Awesome.
Table service, hopefully.
Yeah. That's the way forward now.
Cool. I've not really got my head into much new music, to be honest with you, at the moment. Obviously been quite busy with your stuff and other stuff.
Apologies again to listeners, because I said on the last show, like next time we'll properly coordinate and we'll listen to some new releases. So we haven't, as you can hear, we haven't got around to doing that. We will do it for the next show, I promise. I haven't listened to too much new stuff. There was that Jaden album with Travis Barker, which I thought was all right. It's very similar to Machine Gun Kelly, and it kind of, for me, got old quite quickly. But it was all right for what it was. And then, lots of people on Reddit are banging on about a band called like Bad Luck, full stop. And
right.
would like have a listen to it before the next show. It's their album sound. It's quite interesting. Like it's original. It's original sort of pop punk. I struggled to get into it though. And then there's another band called Settle Your Scores that lots of people are banging on about as well, who are doing the sort of early 2000s pop punk thing, because they got an album out very soon, I think.
Okay, on the list for next time then.
Yeah, those have been the main things I've checked out. I think don't think there's too much else.
Yeah, there's a few big releases coming up, isn't there?
I think the Bleachers album's out soon, so I look forward to hearing that.
Yeah, when's that coming out?
I think it was late July, so fairly imminently, if I remember correctly.
Cool. All right, well, we'll come well equipped, I guess, for next time. But I guess sad news about Mark Hoppus recently.
Yeah.
His cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, really, really, really sorry to hear that. Have you seen much update about that?
Just he's had 2 bouts of chemo now.
Yeah, I think it might be 3. I was watching. He did like a Twitch update just yesterday or the day before.
Right.
So at the time of recording, he was waiting for the results basically to see if his chemo had worked, which is kind of a crucial juncture for him. So thoughts and prayers with him, and hopefully
fingers crossed for full recovery.
Yeah,
it'd be good to see Blink again at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of love for Mark Hoppus.
All right, shall we get into this episode then?
Yeah, let's do that. So a couple of weeks ago, the singer Jade Jackson was kind enough to give us some of her time. I've been kind of following her music for a while because Mike Ness of Social Distortion produced her, and I'm a huge Social Distortion fan, and I like her sound because it's kind of like it's got a Lucinda Williams vibe, and I like Lucinda Williams and I like a bit of Americana. So yeah, I've been trying to arrange this interview for a while, and we finally had it. And she was really sound, and here it is.
So where are you based then, Jade? Which part of the States are you?
So I'm in the central coast of California. So I'm kind of like halfway between Los Angeles and San Francisco. I feel like are the 2 landmarks that people not from California would recognize. And I'm in the middle along the coast. So
are you born and bred over that way, or?
Yeah, I was actually born in San Diego, in Spring Valley, San Diego. And when I was 2, my dad heard gunshots when we were playing outside, kind of like a ghetto area of San Diego. And he's like, all right, we need to move somewhere else. And so my mom's family was from this kind of more of like a quaint, small area, like more family-oriented region of the state. So we moved out here.
Kind of the way I think we do these things is just a kind of a bit of a walk through, I guess, your life in music and your introductions to music growing up. You talked a little bit about your upbringing there. I guess tell us a little bit about your upbringing, kind of when you got into music, what you were getting into, and that kind of early journey, I guess, really.
Yeah, so I grew up around music because my dad was a huge music fan. So he collected guitars and records, and there was constantly music playing at the house. Even though he wasn't a musician himself, there was surround sound music all day, all the time since I was little. And something I've thought about later on in life is that I think I gravitated toward music more so than my brother and sister, because they grew up in the same household but wound up with different trades, was because when I was born, I was legally blind, but my mom didn't know until I was 4. So I think I was using audio as like a source of survival and also entertainment, and I didn't have the visual when I was 1 to 4, which is when your brain's forming. So I really gravitated towards sounds, and my dad played a lot of old country, my mom played a lot of old punk, Susie and the Banshees, Echo and the Bunnymen, Gun Club, and then Hank Williams, Johnny Cash, Tammy Wynette on this side, and that was my main inspirations. I think I pulled from when I first started writing were what had flooded me when I was younger, based on my parents' preference of musical taste, which I really appreciate, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
no, absolutely.
A lot to unpack there, but essentially I grew up in a music loving household, and I just never turned from it.
And like, what about what was like the first kind of music that you really got into, like outside of what like your parents were listening to? Like, what were those? Is there anything that's like stuck to this day, or were they kind of phases, or like, how did that work?
Everything really. I know a lot of my friends from school went through different musical phases. Listen to what's popular, what's on the radio. I never listened to the radio. I'm actually doing that more now as a 29-year-old, like listening to pop music, because I'm curious and I want to discover what everybody else is listening to, just because I'm curious, and I'm finding some really cool stuff. But I went through, I think everyone really gets into and leans on music when they're like in middle school and high school. It kind of becomes your identity. And I love the music I grew up on so much. I never strayed from it. So I came into middle school with like a Stray Cats t-shirt on, or, Johnny Cash t-shirt on. Whereas the other kids were like, who's that? What's that? And so that kind of became my identity, was having this knowledge and background in music that nobody else really knew about. And so I really clung to that. And as I said, only recently have I been listening to more modern stuff. And there's so much out there. It's pretty amazing.
What kind of modern stuff's impressed you recently?
Well, so I started running with a friend, and we like to listen to music when we run. And so I'll just be like, hey, what are you listening to? And she's like, listen to this song by Beyonce, or this song by The Weeknd, or all these artists that like obviously I've heard about, but I've never delved into their sounds. And having studied musical education in college, I find myself, especially in the more modern music that I'm listening to, there's so many different layers. So it kind of takes me away from the run and puts me in this world where I'm like, oh, there's that layer, and then there's the synth, and then there's horn section, and then there's auto-tune, and there's this and that. Whereas like Emmylou Harris, Graham Parsons, Hank Williams, like there wasn't that much to pick apart. It was just like, it was like for the sake of the song. And the music that I've been familiarizing myself with currently has been more like interesting to pick apart, if that makes sense. So just looking at it from that standpoint has been a nice journey for me. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I suppose, you talk about the kind of music your parents were into, and like your mum being into old school punk and stuff. So was obviously, we're going to talk about Social Distortion. Was that kind of on the table and influence in the early days? Were your parents into that? And also, sorry, I'm asking a whole bunch of questions at once, but I either saw you say, or I read somewhere, like, and correct me if I've got this wrong, but is your mum friends with Mike Ness's wife or something? So yeah, I guess, yeah, I'm just asking about how that all came into place.
Yeah, of course. It's a pretty cool story. So my mom went to middle school and high school with Mike Ness's wife, Christina. And she's from, so as I said, I was born in San Diego, kind of in a sketchy area. My dad's like, we got to get out of here. We have kids. My mom's family is from this area. And so my mom went to high school around this area and grew up around this area. And Christina, Mike Ness's wife, also has her family in this area as well. So from 2 to now, I've lived here. And when I was, just about 13, I started performing and playing music. And Christina and my mom weren't super tight when I was a kid, but they did have that, like an old friendship from their youth. And so they knew of each other. And Christina got pregnant with her and Mike's son, Julian, a couple months after my mom got pregnant. So Julian and I are only a few months apart. And so I went to Julian's birthday parties when I was a baby and all of that. Okay. But Mike was on tour, like really steadily through Julian's childhood. So I actually had never met Mike. I've obviously heard of him. I've obviously was a fan of his music. My parents did spin Social D at our, on our record player. And we did also listen to Mike Ness solo records. And I was a fan. I had a Social D t-shirt. All of that, but it was a little more removed than it might seem if you look at it on paper, their moms were friends. Well, I didn't really have a conversation or know Mike super well. Okay. Christina knew of me through an old friendship from my mom and kind of kept tabs on what I was doing locally. And it wasn't until my junior year of college when she, came into a cafe that I was doing an open mic at and was like, oh, I'm going to send this little clip to Mike, sent it to Mike, and then that started, that ignited the fire to have him work with me. But so we had heard of each other before, but he's obviously super busy, and I was just never thought, I wasn't expecting anything. I didn't think he would ever listen to my music, so it was really a pleasant surprise.
What age were you at that point then?
When he heard the little clip Christina sent him, I was 22, 23.
And what were you doing kind of performance-wise? Obviously you said you were at college and I guess were you writing a lot of music at that point and doing a lot of kind of local shows?
Yeah. Well, not too many. So I kind of a brief description of the timeline was wrote my first song at the end of 12, beginning of 13. My dad stuck me in a coffee shop. He's got people to listen to me. From there, from 13 to 19, I was playing an average of 4 shows a week because as soon as I performed in front of people, I was like, this is what I want to do. This is the only thing I want to do. Everything else falls second. And so I was hungry for it and I went for it. And so when I say Christina kept tabs on me in the area, I mean, she didn't really have a choice. I was hanging up my own posters everywhere. I was going to all the local radio stations. I was playing on street corners. I was at every winery. I was playing background. I wanted it so bad. And then when I was 19, simultaneously I'm waitressing at my parents' restaurant. And so when I was 19, I was like, okay, well, when you're 13 years old, you think oh, I'm going to make it. You don't really know what that means. You're like, oh, I'm going to make it soon, right? When I was 19, I was like, oh, I haven't made it yet. Oh, shoot, I don't want to be a waitress. I better get a backup plan. So that's why I went to school, to further my education and music so that if this, my performance career didn't pan out, I wouldn't be stuck at the restaurant. But in college, I got in a really bad accident and I went through a lot of medical stuff. And that's when, for the first time, I kind of came face to face with oh, I might actually not be able to travel and tour. Oh, this is really depressing. Oh, okay. And since I had been doing shows and making my own posters and promoting my own stuff, since I had been doing that for so long, it kind of became a very, I was super serious about it. I was very, I knew where to hang my posters. I had my routines before shows. And after I went through my accident and had medical stuff happen, it was kind of the first time I looked at music as something for fun and not something that I had to make. I didn't have that I have to make it mentality anymore. And so I was back home for Christmas break And I just wrangled up boys in my neighborhood, and I was like, you get on the banjo, you get on the like violin, like we just like sat around in a circle and drank beer and played music. We're like, let's go play an open mic. So it was just for fun. I didn't make a poster, I didn't get dressed up, I didn't do my routine. And that's when Christina saw me and sent it to Mike. So it's kind of a funny thing. It's right when I kind of just like had a different relationship with my craft is when somebody else noticed it and said, okay, this can go to the next level. That was a lot. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it's great.
No, that's really cool. Like that's a great story.
So then my plan A became my plan A again. I didn't have to resort to plan B. I haven't used my degree at all.
So did you kind of have obviously kind of, I guess, broadly, I don't know, would you put yourself in the country category? Was that always kind of the road you want to go down from a style point of view, a genre point of view, or?
I always kind of before I met Mike and worked with Social Distortion, I was more like shooting and aiming towards like the Mazzy Star type thing, Echo and the Bunnymen type, like folk, kind of weird, ethereal, reverberated, kind of more of a stripped down thing. But so I had my folk and Mike had his punk rock, and combined it sort of became this slightly clean, like Americana country rock thing.
Got it.
So it wasn't intentional. I mean, I'm sure Mike had intentions behind like his instrument choices and stuff, but for me it was just like, oh my gosh, I get to work with this guy. Oh, what are we gonna do? Oh, who's gonna play? Like it was more of just like a excitement, like a.
I heard somewhere that he kind of like got you listening to, maybe you were listening to her already, but like got you listening to Lucinda Williams and kind of thought like that would be a good influence on your sound. Is there any truth to that? Because I know he's a big fan of Lucinda Williams.
Yeah, totally. So I had heard of Lucinda Williams, and Graham Parsons were like two of the artists that like my dad definitely showed me, but it wasn't like they weren't played as much as like Hank Williams and Johnny Cash. Like they weren't like in my mental thoughts and streams like as thick as like other artists. So I hadn't really sat down and like listened to her stuff through and through, particularly that album. So he did. The first time I met with him, he handed me the Car Wheels on the Gravel Road, and he's like, your homework is to listen to this and only this for 3 months, like right until we went to the studio. Right. And his intention behind that was I used to sing, and I'm sure someday these will be dug up, but I produced 2 records when I was in high school that have disappeared just because I wanted to focus on the label record. But if you listen to those someday or watch old clips of me singing, I had never been confident in my vocals. I really just wanted to be a songwriter like Bruce Springsteen or like Hank Williams. So I kind of had to sing because nobody else would sing I was writing buckets of songs and nobody just wanted to execute them for me. So because I was insecure about my voice, I did intentional tricks and trills and vibratos and things to try and make it like sound better. I thought that made it sound better. And so Mike wanted me to listen to Williams because she does talk singing and she does straight singing, and she just tells a story and she doesn't try too hard. And so he wanted my vocals to kind of embody that technique.
So what was your kind of journey over those 2 records then? Kind of how much were you doing from a touring perspective? Like how, kind of what was that kind of couple of years like, 2-3 years like?
Well, the first record we made, we had to wait over a year and a half before it went to the public. So there was like a good year there, like a holding cell. My band and I were just rehearsing in the garage, like waiting to get released. And then, Social Distortion took us on tour for our first big like international tour. And
how was that?
It was awesome. I was just telling my friend about it actually a couple days ago. It was funny because I had waited so now we're at like 11 years of me wanting this and doing this to when I actually got to tour internationally. And I put it in my head that if I told, so I ended up getting really sick on the tour, like really, really sick. But I told my bandmates, I just said, you can't tell management, don't tell Mike, because I can't get kicked. I thought if I told somebody I was sick, that I would never get the opportunity to tour again. So I just had all these like thoughts about touring that weren't actually reality. And it was a bit of a learning curve, and it took many years for me to finally like understand touring and develop my pace and like my needs for touring and make it more of like a lifestyle and less of like a trying to please other people thing, if that makes sense. So the first record was it was just all learning. And the second record was more of like chiseling away at how I can make this better. How can I, have this be sustainable? Because I want to do it forever. So yeah, I just say, but both records were just a whole lot of learning. And now I finally feel confident enough in all areas to step into a recording space or a performance space and just be myself. But it took me a while to get there.
By the way, have you started working on record 3? Like, what were the plans with that, and was that interrupted with like the last year and a half and the events in the world and stuff?
Yeah, so during the pandemic, I've written like over 75 songs at this point. So that's just like that's just kind of all I do, and so it's kind of exhausting, probably, and overwhelming for the people I work with, because I'm like, here's all these songs, and they're like, oh my gosh. So if I had it my way and I was in charge of the music industry, I'd put out a record, like a couple records a year. But there's so much behind the scenes and the infrastructure that I have a team for that I don't understand, so I kind of have to wait. So that's been my biggest dilemma, is like, I want to get these songs out, but you have to wait for a record cycle. So during the pandemic, I know a lot of people have been creative, and then there are people who just kind of used it as taking a break. I lean more towards the creative side and did a couple things that I definitely wouldn't have been able to do if the pandemic hadn't happened, because we had a full year of touring lined up. So I had this space, even though I was working at the restaurant, where I could create and write and like dream up other possibilities of music, because we didn't even know if we'd ever be able to tour again. Mm-hmm. So I shifted more into like, I want to create something cool. Maybe I don't have to take it on the road, but like I want to collaborate more. And I started getting into that world. And it's not announced yet, but I do have a very fun and creative side project coming out that I did with Aubrie Sellers. So that's a side project that'll be coming out. And then as far as my last contracted record with Mike, because we're in a 3-record contract, he has all the new songs. He's narrowed them down to what he wants to put on the record. It's just a matter of lining our schedules up, because he also has to put out a couple Social D records. And so it's just waiting. But I'm ready. I got stuff coming out. So I just got to wait for the whole team to be ready, and we'll do it.
I guess before the pandemic, Wilderness was still, I guess, relatively new. You say you had tours booked, still kind of playing a lot of songs from that record. I mean, how much was shelved in terms of shows?
Well,
and
I was
tours?
really actually bummed, because we had Stagecoach, we had like 5 different festivals we'd been like gunning for a really long time that we finally landed. We had a tour with Amanda Shires. We had, it's like we worked 5 years to get to this point where things were just like unfolding, and then it was like, but luckily we got off the road with Lucero on like a Thursday night, and then the world shut down on a Saturday. So we've done handfuls of tours, my band and I. Some of them you get off the road and you're like, I don't want to ever effing do that again. That was horrible. That was so hard. That was so unpleasant. Sometimes like the headlining bands are mean. They'll make you get ready in the hallway. But the fact that we ended with Lucero, they were the coolest, nicest, greatest, most wonderful people ever. It left us on such a high note that I think we were able to make it through the pandemic and still stay connected. Because I have a feeling if the world would have shut down after one of our more difficult tours, we would have all my bandmates might have been like, I don't really want to do this anymore, peace out. But thanks to Lucero and them treating us so well, we're like, okay, that tour was like the best tour ever, so like just hold on, like I don't know when we'll get to do it again, but we will. And positive way to look at it.
Is there any talk of kind of plans yet, or still just waiting? I know Social D have got some stuff. Yeah, they've got some stuff planned, haven't they, Chris? Like some tours in the diary. Yeah, they have. There's this band I've started managing. I'm just curious if you know them, Jade, because they're friends with Julian, who's obviously Mike's son, who's in your band. The band called Love Breakers. You ever come across them? But Mike's taking them out on tour when he comes over
in Europe, which is we're all excited about.
That's awesome. No, I haven't. I'll have to talk to Julian about them. I haven't really looked into their music, so that's awesome. The Love Breakers?
Love Breakers, yeah. It's kind of they're called Love Breakers. Is taken from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. It's a play on that because Tom Petty is a big influence on them. So they're kind of like that mixed with Green Day, but sound very English, I would say.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was just going to ask a bit about Julian being in the band with you. Like you said, you guys just like grew up together and stuff. Was that did he kind of come on board before you started working with Mike, or did that kind of follow in suit after that?
That followed after. So I originally had, a 4-piece band and myself. So there was 5 of us, and then I had to let I had to fire somebody in my band, which was really difficult because of like personal stuff that was happening behind the scenes. We're all good now, but back then it was really hard. And then there was just the 4 of us, and first my guitar player had to quit, and then my bass player quit. But in between those 2 things, I was faced with, oh no, because I thought this is going to be my band through and throughout my entire touring, like Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, like that was my dream, or like the Rolling Stones or whatever. But after my guitar player quit, I was like, oh gosh, like totally devastated and heartbroken. And he did it for legitimate reasons, and like we're cool too, like nothing crazy or dramatic, but Julian kind of came to the forefront of my mind. And Julian works in recovery, and he had a really good job at the time. I think he's back into it now during the pandemic, but I knew he was making a good amount of money and he was helping a lot of people, and I was hesitant to ask him to join the band, even though I knew he was really good, because I'm like, oh yeah, come up in the van with us and like scrape by and eat granola bars for a living and like gas station food, when like he had like this plush like situation for himself. But I was like, well, I'll never know unless I ask. So, I asked him. I just like let him know. I was like, the only thing I can guarantee you about this is that I'm never going to give up, and I want to be a team. And if you want to join, like I would love to have you before I audition other players. And he gave it some thought, and he said, yeah. So he's a very integral part of the band now, and he's super talented, obviously, and just elevated, I think, our stage presence just because he has such a cool look naturally, and he's just really gifted. So I've been really fortunate to have him with us.
And just on the touring front, in terms, you say you did some international stuff with Mike. Did you do much in the UK? Have you got any experiences from the UK?
Yeah, I haven't toured with Social Distortion in the UK. We've done a couple headlining tours there, and it was amazing. We had a great time. We've done, Europe was awesome. It was definitely something on my bucket list, and the fans and people that we performed for were like, we were talking about it with my band, and I were like, when we tour across America, it's like you always know when it's a Tuesday because people are a little tired. You always know when it's a Wednesday, and then when it's a Saturday, everyone's going crazy. And it's like, yeah, it was like in Europe, every day was a Saturday. Like everyone was always ready to like sing along and jump up and down and stay up till 3 and like buy merch. Like you guys just have it going on. So we love traveling over there.
Where were some of your highlights in Europe?
Honestly, I had no expectations my first tour there, because there are some places in America when we first started touring where there'd be a couple people standing there watching us. So I was like, well, if there's only a couple people watching us in Virginia, there's probably going to be like -5 people watching us in France or whatever. But then we show up and we sold out all these little clubs, and I was just like beside myself, like, what? There's like a crazy niche for Americana over there. And I just felt so lucky that I got to travel without having to like plan it myself. I've always known like music was going to take me special places, and it really has.
Cool. So I mean, looking forward then, I guess you've got your little side hustle on the go, and got a new album that Mike's going to produce, and I guess is the plan to get that out this year, and I guess the touring's probably going to be in the States to start with, given the situation of the world at the moment.
Yeah.
And what's the kind of next 12 months look like for you?
I really wish I knew. I'm such a planner, and like I would cut off my left arm to have a schedule of the next 12 months. But I feel as if the industry is kind of shooting in the dark. Nobody knows if we're gonna, nobody really knows anything. All I know is that we have a festival in Montana that rolled over from 2019 pre-pandemic, and we've booked a little solo tour out there and like a co-headlining few shows. And then we have a couple things that we're trying to confirm, but nothing is unfortunately confirmed. I think unless you're at the Social Distortion level or like the bigger artist level, those of us like on my level are kind of just like waiting to see what happens, because a lot of the venues that we used to perform at shut down, so so we'll see. But just know that I'm ready. I got a suitcase right there in my room. I'm practicing every day and I can't wait. It's just there's so much more to it than that I have to practice my patience. So
yeah, and I think we've talked about it on this show with other guests. The hope is that there'll be a real big appetite for live music again, with people being indoors and not seeing any for so long. I think it'd be bigger than ever and much more appetite for it than it was.
I think your song, Jade, obviously the one about this situation, I forget the title, 6 Foot Changes or whatever. I think you sum it up quite nicely with those lyrics.
Thank you. Yeah, that one was produced by Ethan Ballinger. I just knocked it out one evening when I was working on the side project with Aubrie Sellers. I was like, I have this song that I want to put it out. And it was a bit of an afterthought, but I knew I wanted to get it out quickly, and I didn't want to have to wait for all the things you have to wait for with an album cycle. So I'm really a fan of singles. I think after I sum up my contract and do this last record with Mike, and I am more of on my own trajectory, I'm going to just be pumping out more stuff because that's more my style. So
the more content, the better. Yeah.
Definitely.
I think you're seeing a lot more of that as well now across the board, aren't you? Really, the way the industry is now and the way music is consumed, I think, just lends itself to more regular singles rather than albums. Although I guess that the whole vinyl revival that we're seeing now is kind of bringing back a bit of an appetite for that. But yeah, I guess it's about finding that balance, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, definitely.
So this side project, is that likely to come before the third record, or what's coming first? Okay.
Yeah, it's ready to go.
Okay. so really soon.
We're gonna hear something about it in the next couple months. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, super soon then. All right, we'll look forward to that.
I'm very excited about that. It's very different than what I've done with Mike, but
I'm curious.
It's just it was more of just like, hey, we don't know if we're gonna be able to tour on this. We don't know if anyone's gonna listen to this, but like, let's just do this for us. And it was so fun and so much fun. It was like the most fun I've ever had. So even if everyone's like, what is she doing? What is this? I don't even care. Like, I have this record to listen to and be like, oh, that was such a fun experience. So I hope you guys like it. But yeah, it's really different.
I'm definitely curious to hear it. Yeah,
yeah, it's rude. People comment are so rude sometimes. Like when I put out 6 Feet Changes, I had to stop reading my comments. They're like, don't stray too far away from Mike Ness. It's like, what? Like, I'm my own artist too, like. Anyway, I moving forward, I'm not going to read comments, and I'm just going to put out as much versatile, weird shit I can.
That's just the internet across the board, though, isn't it, really? Let's be honest. Anything you were to post, you're going to, there's going to be some warrior, keyboard warrior somewhere.
Totally.
No. I think it's a great song, and I'm not just saying it because you're here, but yeah.
Thank you. I really enjoyed cleansing myself of it when I processed and writ it. It was more like a therapeutic thing for me, so I'm happy that people are connecting to it, and the people that aren't, that's okay. My drummer always told me he's the only last standing member of my original band, so I go way back with him. So he always is like, when we start getting internet trolls, that's when we've made it, and everyone's been so nice, and then all of a sudden, like with that song, we're getting like some trolls. And he's like, no, like that's a good thing, and I'm like, what? It doesn't feel good, but okay, I'll just stop reading those comments. But yeah, our numbers spiked quite a bit with that song, so we got a lot of new fish in the pond, like squawking at us for negative things, and that's okay. That's fine. Yeah. So
I think we could probably wrap things up.
Well, there is a couple of notes on here asking what your dream tour is.
We're down to the bog standard broad questions that we ask everyone at the end. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, cool. Well, Bruce Springsteen, only when management and my label asked me that, who do you want to tour with? Like when I first got signed, I was like, Bruce Springsteen. And they're like, well, sorry, he doesn't really tour with anyone because he puts on a 4-hour show. But he is my all-time like hero. Like if I met him, I'd probably throw up and fall over. Like he's like, to me, like just such a good storyteller, which is my favorite part about this whole thing is if you could tell a story through your song. So it would be touring with him. If he never meets me or tours with me and that dream doesn't come true, my second choice, you didn't ask me for a second choice, but I'll just give you my first. Bruce Springsteen would be my first choice touring with him.
I mean, it's a good one to stick with. Yeah, I would say so.
It's a safe one. I mean, you know, everyone likes him, and rightly so. I mean, you meet the odd person who don't like him, and then
you don't like them.
Exactly.
Exactly. Like, I don't like.
What's your favorite? I mean, this is a bit of a broad question. What's your favorite Springsteen? I'm not even going to go album. I'm just going to say song or contenders for your favorite Springsteen song.
That's hard because Nebraska is my favorite album like of all time. But I have been spending a lot of time listening to The River, and the song. I don't know if it's called River or The River, but I was just like, how did he do that? Or Mansion on a Hill in Nebraska, I can connect to because I had kind of a humble upbringing. He's just too good. That's all.
Have you seen the movie Blinded by the Light by any chance?
Blinded, but I haven't. I haven't seen a lot of movies. It's kind of embarrassing, but I grew up without TV and I just never been a part of my life. So is that a Bruce Springsteen movie?
Yeah, I mean it's Bruce Springsteen oriented movie, but it's like it's the best kind of stance on it. It's about like a British Pakistani kid who grew up in the 80s. True story. Grew up in the 80s and like became obsessed with Springsteen, and it's like a love letter to Bruce Springsteen, but it's a lovely film. It's worth seeing if you ever get the chance.
Oh, right on. I know. I've heard about and I've still yet to see Highway Patrolman. There's like a movie based on it, like played by Sean Penn, about his one of his songs on Nebraska. So I'm yet to see that. So that's the thing. Like with music, is most people they are like they have such a love for an artist as I do for Bruce Springsteen, and they know everything about him because they Google it and they watch all the things. I really just have the records, and then I come up with other things in my head about like, oh, they must be like that or this, but I don't. Like I'm so removed from like the internet and like technology that I don't have the same gumption to like fully deep dive and dig. But I do have the records, and I'm just obsessed with him. So, yeah. Yeah,
like unless you got anything else, Nick, like just want to thank you again for your time, Jade. It's been awesome.
Oh yeah.
Well,
thank you guys.
Yeah, we'll be sure to give that new stuff a listen and a bit of a plug when it comes out.
100%.
Yeah.
For you to arrive, and I can't wait for you to arrive, and I can't wait for you to arrive.